All right, guys, Sam here with you. It's Wednesday, the 16th of January. Here, we'll start with a quick update on Bitcoin as we're doing crypto today. All right, so we're not a radical change from where we left it. It was that Monday when we last looked here. Still, I think there's a reasonable case to be made here that we've had this impulse off of the low, and we're in the process of putting in an A, a B, and then somewhere down here looking for a C. So the A and the B, they're fairly solid. Now coming down here, it looks like at this point, I'm going to go down to, let's go to 30 minutes. It looks like we may be in the midst of a triangle here in our fourth. So from this pivot here, we can get a 1, 2, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a very similar problem that we've had throughout so much of this here. So we have an ugly finish down here. So much like we had here, same kind of thing. It's not a clear, clean. Can you dig it out of there on a 5-minute? Yeah, but it's not much of a 5. So you remain suspect of this low. So, here was the rip up. We went literally 38 to the tick. Right? You see the low volume node here. So it was just structure. You got everything there. So you had right where you'd anticipate it. Now from that, so either we've done a little A, B, C, and this is 1, 2. This looks a bit more to me. Now it's a little early to call it a triangle here. We're not catching these pivots here, but it's maybe you've got, what's one or the other here. So maybe you got A, B, C, D, E, and that would imply then we start heading down. So we're not quite there yet. This could go the other. This could be that this is A, B, C, and we've got 1, 2. We'll know here based on what happens here if we get a little retrace here from the E. This stays below the C, so it could go a couple of different ways. Either way, however we end up resolving here in this 4, it certainly implies that there's a move down. Now algo target right here. But if you back out on this a little bit and look at where the median lines are implying, right, that could be substantially lower. Now, at some point here, you get outside of the bounds of what's reasonable in terms of where we could be going. So if we just go straight down here, if we were to do that, yeah. But now if we start to drift over, where these median lines perhaps we'll look at redrawing those. But right now, you're right in the structure. We haven't even challenged the upper parallel here. So you got to assume that we're just in the process of finishing what's this C wave here. There's no reason to assume anything other based on the price action here. Let me switch this here. I know people have mentioned it's hard to see my mouse. Right? So here, right, it all plays, right? This looks very much like a 4. Now it's, again, like I said, it's a little early to lock in on this as a triangle, but that's looks most probable here. So resolving through this, now if it were to break substantially higher, maybe we rethink this. But right now that looks like we're in the process of going through some sort of corrective sideways. You can see all the volume here clustered around this pivot, which suggests there's one more drive down that would put us back in just the first algo target, 3,400. Right, a buy zone. Well, if you back this thing out here, let's go back to an hourly and say, well, would that make sense? Or where would that put us relative to this pivot? Well, we can just, standard stuff. We can draw here up to our swing high. You get a little cluster down here where you'd have your 786 right next to the first algo target here. Again, I mean, there's really no reason to assume that we won't do that just yet. Right now, Bitcoin, of course, is full of surprises. But that seems that would appear to be the path of least resistance. How about we say it there? Now, is it a potential buy zone? Well, that's not how I would approach it. I'd wait. If you came down here and you got a little pivot, or why try and buy the falling knife? Well, let's see how we do when we come up and challenge this parallel. If we can get through that, and then maybe a little kiss goodbye, and before you get something like that. So that's not. I mean, I would just, why, right? So why try and catch that? There's just, you're not leaving that much on the table. If you get get a little motive wave coming off of that pivot, if we get it, wait for the retrace, rather than make the hero play down here, because would we pivot up here at 43? We're looking at coming down 32, 33, another another $1,000, right? As long as we hold here, we're still making an internal retracement. You got the 100 here. There's nothing that's like screaming at you. The only other thing we might look at here is if let me go back here to 30. We look at for maybe a potential target. The 1, it's a little bit, it's a bit of your best guesstimate here. So if we take the length of the 1, project it from the proposed pivot of the 4 here. Right. Well, so always the challenge. So in a triangle, I would use this since that was our deepest point of the retracement. Well, so here we get a bit more confluence, where we'd have the algo target. We'd have the 2618, which would definitely be an extreme for the length of the 1 projected from the pivot here of the highest pivot of the 4, right? We're unclear as to whether we're going to get a triangle, but it's kind of what it looks like. So if we're going to come down and do that, then we'd have clarity. Now, we'd like to think that this finishes with a clear motive that we can identify, unlike all these prior swings where we can't get clear finishes in the 5. So if that comes down, we get that clean finish, well, then you'd be more optimistic about a potential significant pivot here, get a little break here, maybe up to that, as you can see here, all this volume, likely to run into some selling pressure there, and then take the retrace because you know where you're wrong. Right? So we start to go up here. Now we got, as I've said many times, a lot of work to do to get through that and then get something like that. Now you got something to work with here. So if you don't catch the 2, you've got the opportunity at the potentially here. Now it's all hypothetical here, but you'd have the opportunity potentially for the 4 to the 5, and right, this is always the case. If that gets up there and completes, that don't feel like you've missed anything, because that is likely to follow, and that's the one you can get on board, right? Following a decent motive here, wait for the retrace. That's the one you can get on board with. So if you want to be more conservative, or you just you're not so many false breaks here with Bitcoin. If this starts to resolve down here, this is going to look more and more attractive as a buy, because we'd have a finish that would make sense. So that's what I see there. Now it just kind of requires some patience here, as I know it's hard for traders, right, to be patient. You want to get in and get in the fight, but right now you're just in a congestion zone. There's nothing here really to trade off of. All right, you're trying to play the short from the if it is a triangle down to the 5. It's not what I would do, but I'm sure there will be many that may pursue that. This is what I would wait for, right? I'll wait for that. If we get down here, right, and then I'll feel better about this, right? If I can understand that. All right, not much else to add there. It's just a bit of hurry up and wait, right? Which is. Sometimes that's the smartest place to be. Right? There's you got to resist that temptation to feel like, I'm a trader, so now that means I need to be in the market. You do not need to be in the market. Sometimes out of the market is the best place to be. So just some things to chew on. All right, guys, that's pretty much all I can offer to you there. All right, we got a couple more. Back to you in a bit.